What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of Zach's Live Trader. Here with you, as always, I am the bearded boy wonder, Dave Bartosiak, and today, my friends, I'm doing a little experimentation here live. So, what am I experimenting with? Aside from glorious stock trades that I've worked out this morning. Feeling pretty good. Told you I'm full of coffee and empanada. And I'm rip-roaring and ready to rock. But if you notice, over here, do you guys see? Again, there's a little bit of a delay here, which is kind of annoying. I'm going to figure out a way to not get so much delay. But do you see here how we've got the chat, like the YouTube chat is popping up on the window here? I don't know how it looks at all because I can't really see it. So if it looks stupid, you just got to tell me, and I'll get rid of it. I can, like, move it. There we go. Wow, look at that now. Isn't that cool? Hey, what do you know? I'm experimenting here with some new things. So, if you notice, first we've got this wonderful ticker that's scrolling across the bottom, reminding everybody, hey, Twitter at Bartosiastics, here's the chat. And if you're not already signed up with us, go ahead and sign up with us. Of course, I know all of you already are. But this does get replayed later, right? So there's that. But I think when I get back to Chicago, rather than this plain sort of text, because they had a nice fancy one up there. So I'm going to get them to do part of their job and get this from somebody up there. I'm telling you, man, I'm going to go up there. It's going to be glorious. I can't wait. It's going to be very exciting for me to basically shake things up. Let's put it that way. So I use OBS Studio, which is awesome and free. Part of the reasons why I use them is because they're free, but it's this open source streaming software. And I've been spending some time reading some tutorials, so trying to upgrade, how things look. This may be a little wonky, a little cheesy, but whatever. And then I got the chat window in here. So when you actually talk, right, it comes in here. And yeah, Jeff, you're right. Now we need follow alerts and stuff like that. It's almost like a Twitch stream. And we have been talking about going to Twitch. I'm looking into it. There's Twitch, there's Ustream, there's a whole bunch of streaming sites that we have to investigate. YouTube is good, but I don't know. I think for the actual streaming, there's other places that are better. I could always upload a recorded video to YouTube, and I'll probably continue to do that, and we're going to figure something out. So, like I said, we shall figure it out. Just giving people a few minutes to trickle in here. Not too long, though. We're going to go ahead and get started. Oh, nice. Jeff, you use OBS for your streams. That's good. I've been using it now for a while, but I really haven't added any functionality to it. Aside from, I did make this sweet intro. I was going to start doing late night stuff like, the European Open, or at least just the Asian Open, just like a little bit later in the day. And I was going to use this. Isn't that cool? Do some Dave After Dark. But I never ended up doing it. Manzin, back from the grave. Haven't seen you here in a while. Got the usual suspects, the good Dr. Paul, John, Tremblay, Dean, Trevor. I see you. Of course, Mr. Newman. Okay, let's go ahead and get started here a little bit. And first, we're going to start with Ambarella. So, a glorious morning here. For those of you who followed up with the on the Ambarella trade and were, in fact, bearish, as I was. And if you were, this is a pretty glorious morning for you, right? Pretty fantastic morning for you as we put on that that bullish. Well, in my case, I said the bear debit was the trade that pays, and I think I was right so far. Even the lotto ticket is hitting on this one, which is good. What the heck is this? Get out of here. Even the lotto ticket hit on this one, as I think the lotto I said was a 54 put. I know I can't remember who it was who said the 55 put. That would have been glorious too. And if anybody has the 54 put, guys, if you have these lotto tickets and you did buy them, like, rip them now. You stick around a couple of days. Maybe you'll make more money or not, but I mean, don't look a gift horse in the mouth, man. When you get an opportunity like this, and this stock is breaking down below 53, and you've got a 54 put on it that's going to expire real soon, you just go ahead and rip it. And look at the weakness in Ambarella. I mean, this is just carnage right now. And if you notice, see, part of the reason why I get so happy when stuff like this happens, it's not just, that, like, hey, I like it. Obviously, everybody likes. I like making money. I like making other people money. I love that, of course I do. But there you go. Good Dr. Paul loaded up. Spectacular. Anywho, it's not just that. It's that the hardest part of this whole game is finding repeatable trades. So a methodology that you can use each and every week to find winning trades. And you got to just kind of stick to the system. And I think I deviated a little bit. I was getting a little too cute. I was getting a little too cocky is what it was. And I forgot about the girl I took to prom. And the girl I took to prom, well, actually I had 2 prom dates, but let's not go there. The girl I took to prom was the Zacks rank, okay? So using the Zacks rank, using the price consensus and EPS surprise chart, and doing that analysis in order to try and figure out where a stock might go, okay? So I'm happiest when we lean on that and it works out, because then it makes me feel good. And that's certainly what's been happening here with Ambarella. It's what happened with Dave & Buster's, which we'll get into a little bit. So I'm just happy because this is something that's repeatable, and if you use the analysis properly, sometimes it works. Now, granted, it doesn't work all day, every day, right? We've seen sometimes where we just get thrown a curveball, and it is what it is. The trend is your friend until it ends. And EPS trends take a lot longer to reverse than price trends. And since one of the main determinants of that price trend is going to be your EPS trend, it works out. Okay. All right. So now, guys, the follow-up trades, right? We're still good, Trevor. How about everybody else? Anyone else? I look good. Anyone else having stream trouble? There we go. No, everything looks good. Okay. So, can you guys, I guess the first thing I want to ask is, can you guys see the chat popping up over here? Does it look like you can actually see it, or is it too small? Is it just right? I'd like to get some feedback on the chat that's right here. That's what I'm looking for. And then I think what I'm going to do in the future, if this is right, then I'm going to end up carving this out so that we do the majority of the action within this kind of box. And then we can leave the chat over there and do something else, right? That's what I think I'm going to do. I'm gonna mess it. It's too small, right? It's too small? Okay. But you guys can see it, right? But that's the problem. So I guess the reason for putting the chat in there, what I was thinking was, then we have something that like we can reference later, because I know a lot of the people were like, hey man, can we get the chat later because we can't see? And it does help when I'm talking. There's people that come in and see this later and would just like to see what's happening, right? So really this is not so much for us live folks, but it's more for the people who are going to come in and watch this later. So there's that. And then so the other thing is, I guess we'll just keep it like our actual chatting though. You guys have to have in a different, because like for me, I have the chat window up. Obviously, you can't type in here anyway, but this is just good as I guess like a reference or something, right? But yeah, it's too small. Okay. Fair enough. Okay, good. Thanks for the feedback, guys. Again, I'm experimenting, messing around with stuff. I got my giant banner down here to make sure people get on Live Trader if they're not already on Live Trader. And yeah, Dean, I could probably increase it, and Terry, I can increase it. But I guess the thing was that this chat is for the people who are going to watch the replay. So if they watch the replay in full screen, is it big enough where they can actually see it? And I'm seeing a lot of people are saying if I enlarge the video, then I can read the chat, right? So there's that. Anyway, okay. I'm just experimenting with stuff. I'll mess around with it. Use a magnifier. Yeah, there you go. Okay, guys, so Ambarella now. Coming under pressure, obviously, which is great for us. You got a little nervous, didn't you? I know a few of you did, because after our report, Ambarella started to rally a little bit, or after our video, Ambarella was rallying into the afternoon, and I saw something like, oh yeah, great, it's rallying. You gotta, you can't get all. I guess you gotta just ignore everything that's happening leading up to earnings, right? I mean, that day of, because it really doesn't matter, okay? Really doesn't matter. So the thing is that even in after hours, I know I think after hours it was like 56 or something on Ambarella, so it was down a little bit. But, you don't get too uppity about what happens in after hours, because there's very low liquidity. There's not a lot of people playing the game in after hours. So don't freak out too much. Something else that's jumping off of the page at me here on Ambarella, does anyone else see it? Now, if you remember, I'm going to leave actually just this. This is perfect. Remember we drew our fibs? Now these fibs were not, I didn't draw these today. We drew these yesterday, giving us potential areas of support and resistance based on a previous move in Ambarella. And if you see here, the 61.8 was an area of support that the market hit in June. Then it bounced around the 38.2. Today, it broke the 61.8 and now is at the 76.4. Isn't that amazing? This is a level that I just drew in based on the price action. So we can go out further and you can see where I did this from. From the April lows to the highs. That's where I drew those fibs in. And there was nothing touching this 76.4 until this morning. And the stock broke through this support level and now is finding a bid at the 76.4. That to me is pretty remarkable. I get excited about fibs because of stuff like this. So, already we're asking, all right, well, how could we basically essentially day trade this thing, right? Selling call spreads in the gap is probably a good idea. I'd like to wait and see. This looks like it's too hard. It's actually a little tough to tell if they are going to break the 76.4 or if it's going to hold up. I'd be waiting for a move back to the VWAP. It gets back to the VWAP, see what it does. You can sell call spreads out of the money on the VWAP, or you can get back in short again. Most of you guys, the tail end of the the put spread is down at what? 50? What did I say? 55.50? Was that where it was? Was it a 59.50, 55.50 put spread? I seem to believe that's what it was, or remember that's what it was at least. So let's see if this Ambarella bounces a little bit. See what it does at the VWAP. So a little bit of patience here, I think. Because if this does start to run and it comes back down here again, even out of the money, selling out of the money put spreads might not be a bad idea. You just got to see. Is this an overreaction to Ambarella earnings is what you've got to ask yourself, really. But I think that anything above this gap, I don't think this gap gets entertained today at all. I don't think there's any chance that that gap, that's going to be a sad gap. That's going to sit there by himself for a very long time. So we'll see a sad gap ever. I think he's going to be a lonely gap for a long time. I expect to see selling pressure should the stock get up there, but it very well could. These things, if it jumps down like that, it's got a tendency to come back up. But another thing that you can do is now you can draw fibs on the way down. Some people like to use this as the fib. Oh, what do we have here? Confluence of resistance, 55.50. Could make a run up to there. And then you look to get short again. I think that's really, you don't want to do the post-gap fib. I don't know well, sometimes that comes into play, but the actual gap fib is usually a little bit more consistent. And look at that. When I say confluence of resistance, what I mean by that is our bigger fib that we drew had a line here, and now the smaller fib that we drew has a line here. So when two of them match up, you call it a confluence of support or resistance. Because this is above the current price action, I call it resistance. I love it when I get random phone calls while I'm talking to you guys. Anyway, so you got that support level, resistance level rather, that's over there, well overhead. And we're going to have to see what happens here with Ambarella in the short run. Now, the good news is that you guys have a... didn't I go June on most of these spreads? So you're not going to be able to, get exactly what you wanted for that today. You're going to have to wait a little bit for some time value to erode on the longer spread. But like I said, any of these lotto tickets are going to be looking pretty good and everything. So overall, I think we're pretty good here on Ambarella. And again, we got to see if this rebounds a little bit. But it does have a tendency to do that. Look at this. June 1st went from 60 all the way down to 55 and back. But the good news is it wasn't, fantastic report. So anyway, so there's Ambarella. Dave and Buster's. Now, this one was a little bit of a head scratcher, I'll be honest with you. And the reason it was a head scratcher was we talked about it not yesterday, but on Monday. And it kind of got stuck in this in-betweener land, right? Because we didn't have all these strike prices that we have available with some of the other stocks. So we're looking like 65.70, right? We're looking at that diagonal spread. So that was essentially selling the front month the front month call at $70 and buying the back month at $65. So the good news is, as this comes into the end of the week, you're going to be past that $70. So you're going to make some money. Think about it as that front month call could get called away from you next week, right? Because we didn't have a front week, it was a front month. So you got another week. So I'd let the time value kind of erode on that. And then your long call should have not only the intrinsic value associated with the $65 call, but you're also going to have a little bit of time value in there too. So you just got to kind of sit on it and see what happens. But anyway, with Dave & Buster's, what bothered me, what kind of skewed things, is sometimes people don't see the video, right? And then it's the next day, and the stock's up at 70, and we were talking about a 65, 70 call spread. And somebody was talking about this in the chat where it was $4 for the spread, and I was like, just pass. You don't want to do that. And for those who actually already got in, if they had a good profit, I said go ahead and rip it, because, you know, what's the point? What's the point in taking the risk of earnings if you've already made a bunch of money, right? Anyway, so really settled right around 70, and then in the after hours, it was down a little bit in after hours, and everybody was bumming out, and I'm like, hey guys, look, this is, I mean, take it easy. Like, let's just see what happens tomorrow. Sure enough, here's tomorrow. They open it at 68 and take it straight up to 72. That's crazy. And volume today, I mean, this thing's just been bid pretty much. VWAP's all the way down at 7150 right now. So most of us, I think, are still that bullish diagonal is what we're talking about. So you might not have too much that you can actually do here with Dave & Buster's. The thing about it is, again, the strike prices, we've got nothing in the way of strike prices, right? They're every $5. So it really wasn't conducive to any sort of short-term follow-up trades, I guess I want to call these things. A short-term follow-up trade. And if you look here, and again, there's a little bit of a delay on this. But here's a case in point just to show you. So we only got one more week on the $70 call, and earnings have already gone out. So right now, midpoint is 263. I mean, so 30 cents of juice on there pretty much. And if you look at July on the 65, it's 740 is the midpoint. So again, now there's basically, this is the problem. It's become deep enough in the money that we're not getting a lot of juice on this one either. There's the other negative, right? If it gets too deep into the money, then you're not going to have a lot of implied volatility or time value in it, which kind of stinks. That's even, well, see, this is the problem though. You know, guys, these are delayed and this is real time. So making that assumption actually is probably not the smartest thing for me to say. But if I had my real-time options quotes up here, you guys would see. I promised you I was going to start doing that, didn't I? I'm slacking on my Mac, and guys, I should have my real-time up. But that's the problem though too, is when I start doing that, then they change too fast, and as I'm talking about things, they move, and then it just ruins everything. Then I just look silly, which I'm used to looking anyway, so I don't really care. But Dave & Buster's, in terms of follow-on trade, we don't really have too much, okay? So we wanted to navigate through and find a couple of ideas. So first and foremost, yesterday we were talking about gold, and really it was dollar yen that kicked off my gold idea. And it was because of this downtrend that it's been in for so long, this downward channel. The little rope-a-dope it pulled when it broke through the top end of that channel, and then it got right back on it. We had a couple of fibs carved out, and it consolidated within those fibs for a few weeks. Now it's broken down below this 50% fib. So that means next step, 108, but it'll likely break that. And if it does, then you're talking trendline support down 104, something way down there. Now, I hear what you guys are saying, like, who cares about yen, right? Because we're not trading futures right now. You can make a ton of money trading futures. But yen certainly means something to gold. So as long as that yen rallies, and I say rally because it's dollar over yen, right? So it's dollars over yens. So if the yen goes up, I forget the yen sign. It's something fancy. It's actually not that fancy. Anyway, so if the yen goes up, then the overall number is going to be dropping. So when I'm talking about yen rallying on the dollar yen chart, it's actually into the negative, right, to the downside. Okay. But that has opposite effect on gold prices. Actually puts pressure to the upside on gold prices. Now here's one thing about gold, though. A couple things. Got a nice little bullish trend line that we've had for a while. And I suppose I could say, oh, it's here or whatever. It doesn't really matter specifically where it is. The point is that gold is in a bullish trajectory right now. And now it's butting up against resistance right here at 1,300. Now, last time we were up at 1,300, we got another rope-a-dope. But the rope-a-dope here, November, that was election day. So huge spike up and then the rope-a-dope reversal all the way down. Okay, so political, boom. And I always stop short of saying that like the politics are pushing around dollar or the gold chart, because I don't believe that's the case. I believe gold gets pushed around by yen and it gets pushed around by the 10-year. And those political effects do obviously weigh on the 10-year. So I know I'm probably, it doesn't matter, right? But in my head it does. The causation or the correlation, it's kind of specific. First one and then this one. Anyway, just how I think. So 1,300 firm little cap here. If it does break up, it's going to be spectacular. Okay? So I've got a bullish thesis in the short run. Now, granted, all of this can change tomorrow because we've got Comey's testimony. So I think part of this run-up is due to that drop in the 10-year. Also, I know I got to go back to 10-year. The drop in the 10-year rate, right? So as the 10 years come down, gold has gone up. And the 10 years in a similar situation to what we saw on the yen, where they've got a downward trend channel. But the difference between the 10-year and the yen is that we didn't get a rope-a-dope in the 10-year. Or that rope-a-dope was here. It never broke really the trend. It just kept coming down. So now here we are, 2.16 on the 10-year. And John Blank pointed this out to me over here at Zach's, that because I was like, man, what the heck? How come, really since March, we've gone from 2.6 all the way down to 2.15 on the 10-year? Like, that's crazy. And, of course, he pointed out, well, Dave, we did go from 1.5 to 2.6 in 2 months. The month before and the month after the election. So, of course, you're going to retrace some of that move. So how much of this move do we think we're going to retrace? Well, first we got to actually define the move. So we can put this one to here. But most people just use closer to election day, right? Because this move lasted, gave up a little bit, but the real action, the real sort of anchor point was the election. And we can probably even make it tighter onto election day. Something like that. So now it paints a clearer picture of what's happening. And breaking through the 50%, running out of gas at the 23.6. Now it's coming down to the 61.8. And again, if it breaks that, then we got to draw another level, and that's our 76.4. And that's all the way down here at 2. Okay? So that's good news for the guys who haven't yet bought their houses. So that's good. Anyway, Dave, why are you talking about 10-year so much? Because of gold. Because of gold. Because this is a big thing. So not only do you have those forces, right? But now you're starting to get this, oh, well, Bitcoin is rallying, and this is an anti-fiat currency kind of trade. So let's start to get in on this stuff. And then so certainly people are going to start lumping gold into that, and gold's definitely benefiting from something like that, right? Because people are going, well, this fantasy digital currency doesn't mean anything to me. I want actual hard assets, so let's look at gold. But I think that's only a fraction of this trade. Again, why am I talking about all this? because of the miners. So GDX, GDXJ. Okay. Now, I do want to point out, while this tracks with gold, it doesn't move lockstep. Because that's just the nature of the beast. Because there's still equities when it comes down to it. So I'm trying to find, and you need almost like a multiplier scale. It's like you need a coefficient on GDXJ. In this case, if we change it to GDX, it'll lower the volatility a little bit, and then you'll be able to see it a little bit more. But when you zoom in here, you can see the sort of general trajectory, and then the underlying, or the minor in this case, ends up being like a multiple of the underlying. So I was talking about having a coefficient, so it's like, you know, remember good old general form y equals mx plus b from your algebra days back in the day? So there's a certain multiplier, or a volatility multiple, so to speak, that GDX has versus the underlying base currents, the underlying base metal. So, you know, if gold goes up 1%, then sometimes this is up 2 or 3% times that, right? And then it's the opposite on the way down. But anyway, what happens is they have an overall sort of longer term shape consistency. But it's not like every day that gold is up, GDX is going to be up lockstep with it. That's just not going to happen. And that's why, you know, you zoom out a little further and you can start to see, you know, the miners kind of have a mind of their own, but it is still in the right direction. So what you're not going to have is, you're not going to have gold miners going through the roof when gold is crashing through the floor. Like, that's not going to happen. They're going to kind of move together. So that's, in short answer, that's what's up with GDX, and that's what's up with GDXJ, is that just because gold is up a little bit doesn't mean that these guys are gonna rally along with it. Because remember, you know, they do have an equity component still. And I was just checking in here on the S&P to see what we got going on, and a whole lot of nada. VIX is actually down today, which is surprising to me to see the VIX down. Okay, let's see. What else do we got going on? Okay, let's see. Sorry, guys. I'm going through coming down the chat here. See what we got going on. Oh, Micron. So I have Micron in home run. Wait, do I have it in home run investor? Wow, that's right. I have home run in both of my trading services. I have it in Momentum Trader, and I have it in Home Run Investor right now, because I love Micron. And you guys can see here that our Zaxiness sure loves Micron too. So Micron is a 3. But this is why I think actually using the price consensus and EPS surprise chart is better than using anything else. Because you can see the actual movement of these EPS estimates versus just, hey, where are we on the rank calculation? So you'll see how wonderfully Micron has tracked with their EPS estimates. And that's great on the way up, but it's terrible on the way down. Now, a lot to do with so there's a lot to do with this is whatchamacallit, the DRAM prices. So DRAM prices move like commodities pretty much, where you have supply and demand in the DRAM market. So these are memory chips and such. So when you start to get into the Internet of Things, which we are fully embedded in right now, because I think I told you guys this, I have a coffee maker that I start with my phone. And that type, they have a crock pot that you start with your phone. That drives me crazy though, because why would you need to start a crock pot remote? I mean, just turn it on, like you're at it. Like anyway, all Internet of Things, there's chips and everything. So there's been a huge demand for memory chips, and it's not like you can just go ahead and start a memory chip supply factory overnight, right? It takes a little bit, similar to, like I said, oil here. So it takes a while to get those derricks in the ground and the drills in the ground and drill for oil. You can't just bring on new supply at the drop of a hat. Although obviously today, with so many of these spigots turned off, they can turn it on and change the supply, of course. But you get what I'm saying. So DRAM pricing, huge effect on Micron's EPS. So this is what we've been seeing. Micron's been on a nice little run here. It's only happened recently, though, because I was getting beat up in this. Yeah, right here, getting beat up, and I'm like, geez, what the heck is going on here with Micron? And then, boom, she just reverses and goes up. So, still like the Micron. Of course, oil. Now, this is the problem with this particular charting platform. I think I'm stuck on yesterday when it comes to oil. So I can't do any kind of daily thing. But obviously you guys see here I do track oil a little bit. And look at that. Getting a little toppy. Got a little downward trend channel that's developing. Let me pull this back here. So that's the case with oil. So not good that it's chopping down. And you could always draw sort of the little fibs within these moves to give yourself some idea. But right now, certainly downward trend on oil. This is supposed to be an area where, or a period where oil prices historically are on the rise because it's the summer driving season. This is when you're supposed to have increased demand for oil. There's so much upheaval going on that it's sort of like maybe the U.S. doesn't need to worry about OPEC as much as it used to. So there's real huge fundamental drivers in that market right now that are changing. The landscape there is changing a lot. But I'm surprised that this whole Saudi Arabia, Kuwait thing that's happening isn't having more of an effect on oil prices. But we'll have to see, because now there's all sorts of weird, and I read Zero Hedge sometimes. If you guys ever want to be paranoid and not want to leave your house, just read Zero Hedge for like 10 minutes because it'll scare the bejesus out of you. So I read Zero Hedge for like 5 minutes, and I was convinced that World War III was on our doorstep, and it was going to happen. It was going to kick off between Saudi Arabia and Iran like tomorrow. If that does happen, oil prices are going to go through the roof, right? If it doesn't happen, I think you're going to get a little bit more of this winding down until it finally breaks. So I would keep an eye on these two trend lines to get direction for the oil market in the short run. Well, Saudi Arabia is talking garbage to Qatar, but the reason being is their ties to Iran. It's a big part of it. Oh, Zero Hedge is just go to zerohedge.com and you'll be paranoid for the rest of your life. I don't know if it's because I'm a Libra or what, but on my Twitter feed I like to put all sorts of different views. So I will look at like a Zero Hedge. I will look at, Huffington Post. I'll look at Breitbart. I'll look at, so I'll try to get every extreme, and then I'll try to get some in the middle, and then I just want all these different perspectives because I'm not one of those guys that is hell bent on the way that he thinks. I'm always trying to just learn what other people are thinking, because it really doesn't matter what my opinion is on anything, but it does matter what other people's opinions are because they can influence things. Does that make sense? It's like I'm not cocky enough to think that anybody cares what I think. Nor should they. but I try to take in all these different perspectives when I'm putting together my decision-making process. Okay, so given oil kind of chopping around the way it is, we can look at Hess. So these guys are a refiner for the most part. So when you're evaluating a refiner, you got to go ahead and dig into the crack spread. So the crack spread is going to be oil equals, and some people have different ones, right? So it's like equals, what is it, 2 heating oils and 1 RBOB or something like that, or the other way around. So you essentially have to look at the underlying of the other ones. So here with Hess, you do have a situation where this 45 level has held up in some regard. Look at that spike all the way up to 66. And I didn't realize that the refiners have been doing so poorly in the wake of the election. I didn't realize that. Of course, I'm saying refiner. I'm just assuming it's all the refiners based on what's happening with Hess. Let's look at what Zax has to say about it. Again, the threes, I look at the 3, but it's not the big thing for me. I like to look at, so here you're looking at something that's not a lot of growth. Not since 2014. I mean, going just in the opposite direction. I'm assuming you're getting a healthy dividend to stick around with this. Let's see how healthy this dividend is. That's not that healthy. 2.13 is not that healthy. Now, granted, I'm also taking this as the actual number. There's plenty of times that it's not. Specifically with dividends, like people are always screwing up dividends on their websites. Anyway, overall, this has been creeping down. So the 2017 estimates have been coming down, and that's what's putting the stock under pressure. Do have lots of earnings beats there. Oh, looking to short. Well, these estimates keep coming down. This is the only problem here is on Hess. You've got that yield of 2.1, and that looks more and more attractive when the 10-year is at 2.1, right? It's more and more attractive when the 10 years at 2.1. So if 10 years starts to move, I think that's when I would start to really put the clamps on Hess, is I'd wait for rates to start ticking on up. But that's going to be the opposite of our other scenario where we were talking about with gold. So I think maybe you have to wait a little bit on Hess, unless it breaks that level. If it breaks 45 on decent volume, then I'd say you probably have the green light to go ahead and short Hess. But until then, it's had, and let's look at, I want to pull up the volume at price indicator so you could see. Well, actually not a lot of volume has come in to save it when it's been down here. So that next time, it might just blow on through. So that's what I'd wait for, is a break of 45 there on Hess. Oh, I missed one. Net tease. Whoa, look at this bad boy. Holy smokes. Where was I on this one? Not a B. Netties. I said net tease. Let this pull up. If it's going to pull up. Any day now. No? No love? You're not going to give me a chart. Okay, let's see how it is. Oh for 2. Zax doesn't like netties, apparently. I'm not getting any. Maybe we don't have any estimates. Let's look. No. Oh, there it is. Did you see it? It was a flash. Flash in the pan. There we go. That's beautiful. This is glorious. That is good to see. What do these guys do aside from being $300? Chinese internet. It's all about that Chinese internet, man. So I have this stock, Momo, in Home Run Investor. This has done pretty well for us over the long run. Wow, NetEase. This is cool. Let's see. Let's look at some of these options. Pull that up. Let's get back in here. Approaching this 52-week high. Nice. Yeah, Chinese games online, which is even more bullish, really, in the short run. Big gap up, fill the gap. Look at this. See, when I say gaps get filled, it's because of stuff like this. And the gap certainly got filled. And now you're butting up against resistance at $300. So let's see what happens here. If it can break through on some volume, they are on and running. Up and running. They're gone. Okay. So what about this NetEase thing? I think this is something I'm going to put on my radar maybe, but I can't come up with a quick idea for how to trade options on this one today. I need to learn a little bit more about this bad boy before diving headfirst into it. But this is kind of cool, and they pay a dividend. What? They don't really pay a dividend, do they? A Chinese internet company that pays a dividend? I'd seen it all. I have seen it all, my friends. That's crazy. Okay. Acacia. You know who was a big fan of Acacia? Mr. Kevin Cook, I think, used to talk about these guys back in the day. Or maybe, yeah, I swear he talked about these guys. You know what, though? Every once in a while I bring up something like, hey, don't you remember that? And then he looks at me with this blank stare. And just goes like, what? So maybe this is one of those ones that sounds like something that he had. But, all right, so I don't have enough data here. Doesn't go back far enough. There's got to be some sort of fundamental reason. Look at this. Well, so the current year is terrible, but next year is going to be great. Same thing, right? Yeah, this year stinks, but next year, I hate it when they do that, right? Like, next year, everything's going to be fine. It's just bad now. No. I don't know, folks. That looks pretty nasty. So, yeah, I think if you're stepping on that, maybe you can crack the neck. CIA. Woof. Woof. Just beating it down. Now, I don't know the fundamental story on this one, but doesn't look too good. Yeah, why? This thing, I remember this when it first came out. This thing is all over the place. All over. What's happening? We still crushing. Look at Macy's. Oh, Macy's. Kohl's, bye-bye. Foot Locker. See, I like Foot Locker. Man, that's some carnage. Fell off a cliff. Fell off a cliff. Somebody else was talking about Fastenal yesterday. That didn't like it. Maybe that was you, Newman, in the chat room. Could have been. Dollar General. This one's kind of always hangs in there, though, doesn't it? What's happened to Dave and Buster's? They go, see, this is what they do, right? They try and find, okay, how much more are you going to buy? How much more are you going to buy? How much more are you going to buy? Okay, we're going to let loose on this one over here, right? But there's just not enough, we don't have enough strike prices to mess around with this and get cute with it. What's Amba doing? I think Amba's going to end up settling into this range, guys, where it just kind of bounces around. It seems like what's been happening a lot lately is these things make their move, and then they kind of like tease. So like this thing might come, break through here a few points, and then come back down, and then it might come under here, and then boom, come back in here, right? So this thing is just gonna, I'm pretty sure it's just gonna chop around, and it'll probably come get it. It might cut to the VWAP, boom, come on down, right? So I was thinking, guys, any short-term follow-ups, remember this gap. If there's calls in this gap, there's got to be some, right? That might be the place in the short run where you can sell something in there. This delay is killing me. Is there a delay on... I wonder what the delay is on Twitch. There can't be that much. Jeff, you know about Twitch. What's the delay on Twitch? From kind of real time, somebody saying it, to when you guys hear it. That's what I'd like to know. Still want to dig in here at Dollar General. Man, this is some choppy craziness over here. Macy's is letting loose. Below, I mean, just bye-bye. Macy's might be the end of Macy's. Not the end of it, but this is pretty bearish here. And this continues to get bearish. These guys are still breaking down right now. Still breaking down on Macy's. Where could that possibly go? Do we have multi-year lows? We are multi-year lows. I think it'd be pretty tough to find a bullish thesis here on Macy's here, I think, in the short run, especially since it's broken down like this. Look, it came down, so the lows following earnings, 24.25, and then they approached it. Look at the high, 24.56. So intraday they get above it, fail, boom. Now it's broken down to new lows. I think you can be as bearish as you want to be on Macy's right now. You can buy a put spread on Macy's and go out a few months into earnings, after earnings, whatever you want to do, because this doesn't look so good. Sell out of the many call spreads. I don't know how much juice is going to be in those call spreads though. And then this is going to be one of those value traps again, I think. Like I was talking about Coors. Coors bounced back the other day. I kind of want to step on this again. Look at this. Did this touch this wick? 34.92, 35.28. So he gets above it, but then it closes below it. Bearish sign here on Coors. You could probably jump back in bearish on Coors. More. So anyway. What else? I got time for one more. XTLY. Exactly. Look at this nice gap up. This almost looks like a buyout. When I see a chart like this, did these guys just get bought out or something? Because it's like boom, and then it's stuck on this $15 level. XTLY. That looks like a buyout to me. Where's my news? Partner news. Silliness. Yeah, they got bought out by a private equity firm. Look like a buyout. Facebook. Stalling out a little bit here, but I think all things NASDAQ, all things Facebook, all things tech, all things earnings, they're going to keep on trucking over the long run. So I think you stay long and strong Facebook until the end of time, or something goes awry, which I don't know that it will. Okay. All right, guys. I'm running out of gas. I got to get up out of here. It is Wednesday, which means I've got a big day. Oh, Newman. We got another week. As long as Comey doesn't get Trump impeached tomorrow, I think the market has a relief rally on Friday, and that's going to pull up the NASDAQ, and your Facebook is going to rally along with it. So that's what I think about that. Yes, NVIDIA, great. AMD, great. All these things, fantastic. Okay, guys, like I said, it's Wednesday. I'm flying back to Chicago tonight. I still have a lot of work to do before I can even think about getting on that plane. So I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow, aside from just kind of get to work. So there's not going to be anything we're going to do here tomorrow. But the day after, on Friday, I might do something. So just kind of keep an eye out. I will pop into the chat room when I get a chance. I'll be in there a little bit today, and then tomorrow, once I get into the office, I'll probably check in with you guys and be there. And again, if you don't have that chat room link, I'm going to go ahead, here we go, and put it in again into the YouTube chat, so you have that. And that's always open, okay? 24/7, 365. The chat room's open. Doesn't mean that anybody's in there. But I've always actually usually see one or two people in there, so that's good. So you can go ahead, go there. Open forum, so there's been a lot of people sharing trade ideas, talking about things. Feel free. It's a judge-free zone. And if you are in there, I suggest update your avatar so it looks real, like we're real deal, like we're real people in there. Get a little personality. Show yourself. Show your face. And or an interest that you like or something. And any suggestions, feel free to throw them in there too. Or, of course, email livetrader@zax.com. Or just respond to the email that I send out anyway, because that'll go to me, so that's fine. And we'll just kind of go from there. So I'm going to keep messing around with these little experiments we got going on. I think they went well. And that's all I have for you guys today. So thank you so much for hanging out on the live the morning after stuff. Yes, Jeff, please send me that, and we'll go ahead and go from there. So thanks everybody for hanging out, and I will see you all probably Friday. Have a good one.